The Australian wine industry is one of the toughest businesses around. It has to contend with shrinking margins, unpredictable climate cycles, and then changing consumer tastes. Two of the nation's oldest producers, though, have weathered all these conditions and more, and they've thrived in business for 150 years. Karen Percy has the story.
These would be some of the oldest surviving vines in the country. How significant are these in terms of sort of wine history in this country?
I think they're very important because...
For almost 100 years, Viv Thompson's family has toiled the vineyards at Best's winery in Great Western. Some of the vines have been here even longer, planted in the 1860s by Henry Best, when miners sought alternatives as the gold rush petered out.
When Henry Best planted this block of vines, what he wanted to do, he wanted to get every grape variety he could lay his hands on.
When Henry Best's property was taken over by the Thompson family in 1920, the Depression was just around the corner and it was far from clear what the future held. But this week, Best's winery is celebrating 150 years of operations.
Just watch your clothes.
Wow, so once upon a time, this would have been full of wine.
Yes.
Amazing.
The cellars, the casks, even some of the wine stored here go back to a different time.
Like most wineries now are stainless steel and plastic, where this is still used. It's great. If you're going to...
Andy Carter is retired now, but for him and hundreds, perhaps thousands of others over the years, Best's has meant a good job and interesting opportunities.
September the 8th, 1869, they were ploughing.
The Great Western Wine District owes much of its early fame to the Best family.
The 12th, Sunday, no work on Sunday.
As Henry Best was starting Best's winery, his brother Joseph started what would become Seppelt just a few kilometres down the road. They worked together in the early days, but when Joseph died and the winery changed hands, a split grew. In 1920, Seppelt tried and failed to register the Great Western name for itself.
There was a lot of bad feeling between the two companies for quite a long time. And this probably existed, I think, up until I came home in the 1960s.
Unlike Best's, Seppelt has been bought and sold often. It's been publicly traded and owned by some of the biggest names in the business, Southcorp and Foster's. Its latest owner, conglomerate Treasury Wine Estates, had decided to shutter the site in July. But local businessman Daniel R. Chow has struck a deal to run the cellar door, function facilities and the popular heritage-listed underground tunnels.
Seppelt in Great Western is iconic. It's a place that people from all around Victoria, all around Australia and the world should come and visit. It's just a beautiful place.
Tourism in the Grampians is a really important industry. It generates over $300 million of direct expenditure, employs over 1,600 people. Having the stability of someone like Seppelt's in our region means that jobs are secured.
This has given the whole district a lease of life, and I think it's absolutely wonderful news, wonderful news.
But Seppelt wines made in Great Western are now a thing of the past.
It's really such a shame to see that change, but I think in terms of where it stands in the industry for a small family-owned business, I think it puts us at an advantage because, you know, we're not at that same position where we have to, you know, close our doors if, you know, the market changes and if, you know, the shareholders get upset.
At Best's, winemaker Justin Percy is given a big say in the 20,000 cases of wine produced every year.
It's very much about looking after the vineyards and very much about, you know, making sure we can make the best possible wines we can. And it doesn't always equate to profit, but, you know, in a family-owned business, they're perhaps more prepared to wear that.
If someone come in today and offered me $10 million, I'd say no. If you offer 20 or 30, I'd probably scratch my head and say I'll think about it. But at this stage, we're certainly not for sale.
We need some good soaking rains. We've actually had to purchase water for the vineyards the last couple of years, which sort of adds to our expense quite a bit.
Day-to-day running of the vineyards at Best's is now in the hands of Ben Thompson, Viv's eldest son.
When you're in somewhere for a long time or family history, to me, I tend not to think about it too much because it's just so much a part of your life. It's just a natural thing to do.
While corporate-run wineries have the muscle to influence the market, they can lack the flexibility and creativity of smaller outfits.
If you want to change something, you just go and change it. You don't have to have a board meeting or anything. We'll just sit around or walk through the cellar, or we'll go, how about we try this, or we'll have some interesting fruit come in. We'll say, well, hang on, we'll make something different out of this.
How much heavier they were.
That's evident in the wines on offer.
It's quite unusual to have oak on Riesling.
Yes, yeah, and that's the benefits of working for a family-run business, you know, that gives Justin the leeway to be able to have a bit of a play around.
For such a small region, Great Western has had a big influence on the national wine scene, a tradition that's sure to continue now that the Seppelt name will live on here.
There's a huge history, obviously, between ourselves and Seppelt. Regardless, you know, of what happens in the future with them, that's something that we will always still talk about because, you know, it's so iconic.
150 years down, who knows how many more to come.